We know what I said. We'll move past that for now. You now have the evidence to back up what he dredged at the U.S. Assembly, Trump. What Trump dredged at the U.S. Assembly. What you're talking about is the fact that the EU countries have been purchasing oil from Russia. Well, yeah, this is something else that we talked about because I read all this before. I'm reading it for mostly the third time. If everybody had followed through Trump's wish to sanction Russia, to sanction Russian oil as much as possible, then they would have complied as it's in their best. Then they would have complied as it's in their best interest. Then they would have complied as it's in their best interest. To sanction Russia or not to? I don't follow. But you're missing something, I can tell, because I've read this before. What could be inferred from Europe choosing to buy oil from Russia while simultaneously asking the United States to get involved because Russia is scary? Well, because they know they fucked up. The Green Movement has been promulgated by Russia for a long time. Now, they didn't straight up cut. It's not like George Soros cutting checks towards Antifa and shit like that. But the evidence, it's not even really a controversial thing that Russia has funded the Green Movement, especially in Europe, to a certain degree in the United States. The reason is simple. The Green Movement insists on things like that aren't even a matter of green, like not using nuclear. I know we talked about this when you were here, if not other times. So Russia uses their influence, pushes the Green Movement. They're not the only ones pushing the Green Movement. There's ideologues involved in it too, but they're very heavily invested, if not with direct finances, with direct funding, with simply pushing the narrative, usually, if nothing else, with bots and sock puppets, in some Moscow, what do you call those rooms where a bunch of people are on computers pretending to be this or that, whatever. So it's not right now Europe they're choosing to buy oil from Russia while asking the U.S. to get involved because especially Germany has made themselves dependent on Russia because they bowed to the Green Movement. And just as politics always is now, and how it turns treasonous is the people know that if they appease these crowds of stupid people, that they're going to be out of office by the time it matters in most cases. So what could be inferred of Europe doing that is it's easy. You just have to put yourself in their position. You see, if the Europeans were serious about a peaceful resolution to the Ukraine war, they would have stopped buying Russian oil, and they don't have a choice, brother. They dug this trap for themselves and played right into Putin's hands. This isn't about having all these options. They would have stopped buying Russian oil and paid more money for whatever, because in politics you don't think ahead usually. You think about what's going to happen during your term, and if you're going to run again. That's it. That's why Europe is in the shit show it's in. Just the way most democracies work, unfortunately. They suck. And I'm not embarrassed to say it. But they think they can hide behind the United States, save the dollars. It's not a matter of hiding behind the United States. It's a matter of there's no one else they can turn to. It's either be Russia's stooge for the rest of time or go to the United States because there's no one else to go to. I mean, Iran's been dealt with, fortunately, but they would have been, I guess, an option, but nobody wants to be stuck at the beck and call of Iran. But again, I know we've been over this. To hide behind the United States, save the dollars, and continue to drive Russia into actions that would compel the United States under the old arrangement. Yeah, nobody is, anyone with the objective that they want peace, they're the losing side. You can't want that first and foremost. To Donald Trump's credit, he didn't prioritize that as much as he told people when he was running for office. To his credit, he's kept, us out of, but okay. So yeah, the manipulation is one reason why we need to change the relationship with Europe. Personally, I think the problem for Europe is deep down suicidal. Okay. I'm going to skip over this for the most part because it is nothing but conjecture and, in my opinion, completely divorced from reality of the European mind, especially considering the nuance of what's going on in every single country. And actually, the social movements in Europe is a testament that they do not want to commit suicide. Um, I'll I'll dwell on this a little bit more next time. The idea that World War II ruined them and all that is also not the case. Germany, in terms of the ones on the east side, you could say that they were morally broken because of the communist occupation, what they did to the vast majority of them, and also gave them everything they needed. Even though they were poor, they weren't really in need of anything. And you had to worry about the Stasi and all that shit. But no, actually the opposite is usually the case with communist countries when the communist country collapses. You don't see that with Cubans that leave Cuba. You don't see that with Romanians. You don't see that with people who are now in the Czech Republic or whatever the hell they changed it to again. Many Germans at worst were lazy. Anyone that ended up in they didn't call them gulags, whatever the German version was of that in East Germany, many of them had their spirits broken, but that's not enough to kick it down generations, no. It's easy to see World War II has really changed the European character across the board. So you see Europe presses Russia, not because it's a smart thing to do. They're not pressing Russia. They're keeping to their agreements. And wisely, not, again, just the fact that you say Europe presses Russia, that alone, that is a Russian propaganda term. Just like provoked, that's the other one. Bullshit, first of all. Absolute bullshit. Second of all, Isaac, in what world does a country invade a sovereign nation, and then whenever that sovereign nation gets backed up in any way, mediocre or all in, is the invader being pressed? No, brother. You're going to have to do a fuck up a lot more work if you think you're going to get away with using the word presses or provoked, whichever the Putin all-time favorites of inversion propaganda you want to throw at me, okay? No. They want to take advantage of America's expense. To a degree, Donald Trump is exaggerating, I'm sure of it. I don't want to get into that because it's a long, boring numbers conversation. However, there's enough truth to it, you know. But if you give something to someone for free, you know, they're going to take it. It's typically how it works. However, we know that they've been screwing us in so many ways. In a lot of ways, yeah. Because in part, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they've created the EU, and the EU, well, again, it is what it is. I'll take that at face value. So at the end of the day, what's worse? I reject this false dichotomy. Continuing to let their attitude towards us go unchecked, we are already not letting their attitude towards us go unchecked. And help them out of help them out of yet another confrontation with the Russians. It's, no. If you think that a Russia-occupied Europe is going to do away with a socialism problem, because if you think Putin gave up his ideals and if he didn't position people who share his KGB ideals isn't the way it is, I'm sorry, you're living in a dream. It's actually a shame we don't still call it the Soviet Union, because it is. They're modeled after China now, only worse because it's a shithole and China's not. Well, actually, most of China is, because we're about to get to China. So I reject your false dichotomy. It's just not based in reality. Yes, we should keep to our agreements. Putin should not be allowed out of this with 1 square meter of Ukrainian land. Because if he does get away with it, not only is he being emboldened to go and do it again, every psycho dictator, like the ones you mentioned in a minute, Z in particular, is now emboldened to do the same thing because, well, no, who's going to stop me? So at the end of the day, your dichotomy is wrong. Okay. Should we start working with the Russians? The answer is no, full stop. I know what you're going to say next, but the answer, no matter what, I can imagine anything else after this. Should we work with the Russians? The answer is absolutely fuck no. And because we're not crazy. I hope. No. You do not make a deal with a piece of shit like this. This is not just an emotional thing, despite my pejoratives and F-bombs. This is a fact of Putin's record. If he hypothetically dropped dead right now, God willing, and somebody even as moderate as Khrushchev took over, I would say, maybe the notion of working with Russia. And by the way, he would fuck us over in a heartbeat. This man has never kept. The only people he's kept a deal with is the people who are on his teat, like North Korea and Iran. By the way, Iran, that was the other one Europe could have gone to for oil, but they didn't. One, they're not as close. Two, that's Russia's, ally, was Russia's ally anyway. They're about to be ousted, thank God. And the Shah's going to be in place if everything goes as it should, but that's another matter. I'm still hanging on to that. So, yeah. Or should we start working with the Russians? Again, I reject your false dichotomy, but the answer is no, but I'll keep reading. As a known the threat kind of, okay, I'll reread that the way you probably meant to type it. As a known threat, the kind like how we've been doing with the Chinese. Okay, I don't know how you meant. It's the same thing with regards to Chinese. We've known they've wanted to destroy us for a long time. Oh my God, Simon. Fuck. Here's the thing. When I trash talk Putin, or as I prefer to say, talk reality about Putin, the man is not the man is three-dimensional. When you talk about your false dichotomies, Lex Luthor was more three-dimensional than what you think the Chinese Communist Party is going on. I mean, I can see this like if somebody made a comic book character like this, I would say, my God, dude. This is the kind of thing, if you're writing to 10-year-olds, okay? China's not sitting around all day thinking, oh, how are we going to destroy America? I mean, you actually said that you believed that a nuclear war was worth it to them, as if they have nothing else to concern themselves with. Well, I can tell you what they concern themselves with. What every other dictator does. Whether you're talking about Z or it's the same thing as Putin. It's the exact same thing. I mean, you seem to think the Chinese don't live by Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the pyramid. Look it up if you don't know, but I think you do. No, they want to stay in power. That's the most important thing to them. That's the most of it. What do they want to destroy us for unless they believe that would be the only way they can hold power? Well, they've done so far with our existing just fine. I don't get how you think that that's what they sit around thinking about all day. It's like literally like the Nazis had better reasons for thinking the Jews had nothing to do but bring down the Germans. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion, I started reading that, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like embarrassing that any human, but even that has some layers of the villain they painted Jews out to be. But this is just like, yep, they want to destroy us. That's what their agenda is. It's like, okay. No, I don't believe that is their modus operandi. That's their magnum opus. No. Do I think that if they thought that destroying us would ensure their... Sure, but they're not. The Chinese are not stupid. They might be a bit on the callous side, but they're not stupid. Nothing about destroying America would guarantee that the Chinese Communist Party stayed in power, and particularly Xi, because he is the Chinese Communist Party now. The world doesn't work this way, brother. It never has. If that was their agenda, like destroy America, again, it's not a matter of them not being moral or being too moral to do a thing like that. It doesn't fit the agenda of survive, thrive. I don't mean the Chinese people. I mean the higher echelon of the Chinese Communist Party. Same thing with regards to the Chinese. Okay, I want to just shit on that. Okay, I personally doubt that Reagan was duped into anything. I'm sure he was duped into a thing or two. Everyone is. They knew China could become a serious opponent if they got rich. Wait. Doubt that he was duped. They knew that China could become a serious opponent if they got rich. Well, I mean, they were a potential serious opponent anyway. I don't follow. Because did you mean to say doubt that he was duped into anything, or that he was part of some conspiracy? I don't follow. And having an external enemy is always better than civil war. Well, if it's that, but that doesn't fall into, which tends to happen when people have nothing to direct aggression to outside. Okay, we're not living in the days of Robin Hood, where you can get some arrows and bows towards some people in the woods and they can overthrow the king. Long gone. It's not like everyone... In fact, it's somebody from the outside that causes civil war now with propaganda. That's why people always say we're on the verge of it. I don't know that that's true. We're closer to it than we've ever been. I'll give it that. But this is foreign influence dividing people by way of the internet. And one of those influencers, by the way, is Russia. I'll make that case another time, because this is a long video as it is. It appears as if you're being emotionally affected by our previous conversation because we completely dropped as I was at the middle of... No, brother, for fuck's sake. Shabbat. I'm a Jew. Like a religious Jew. And it was Friday night. This happens to me a lot. And I try to let it slide. But people go, oh, you this and that was on Friday night. Yeah. Oh, but that's Saturday. Jesus. And they're like, okay, dude. And I'll say it to somebody. Here's how days work for the 27th time. Okay, well, no, I didn't drop shit. Shabbat dropped me. Okay? It always will. It appears you've been emotionally affected. No, because I did, even if it wasn't Shabbat, just because I go dark doesn't mean I've been emotionally affected. It means I am not emotionally addicted to technology. And when something pulls me away, and don't forget, we're also in the high holy days right now. This is the holidays that made the Romans hate us, I think. Actually, there's some truth to that. Because not only do we have Shabbat, we got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got like 8 holidays or 9 holidays stuffed into a month's period of time on top of Shabbat. I mean, for damn near half the month, we're not allowed to work. It's like, or if that concludes, I turn my phone off. And I do. I understand you think I have some affection and prefer. I don't think you have an affection towards Russia or Russians in the current situation. You'd say, yeah, no, But I think you hang on to an idea, and that's worth much more to you than the country Russia itself. With all due respect, it's one of the reasons why you're so into conspiracy theories in the way that you are. Now, I want to be careful with this because everybody believes in conspiracy theories. But I've noticed a pattern between certain kinds of people who talk about conspiracy theories that they believe in and others. You have the ones that have a few of them sorted out that they might believe. Then you got the ones that are generally considered, like Kennedy was not killed by Oswald, which I lean towards thinking he actually was. That's another thing. But they get people rarely throw them out. They spend. I saw this growing up. People would predict this and they would predict that, and whenever it didn't happen, they would, it is. It's just, and it would go from because their beliefs and theories they see as extensions of themselves, or maybe even part of their core selves. Psychology I don't want to get into because pee-wee psychology is tiring for a doofus like me. It's just and plus I don't want this video to be 4 hours long. No, I think that have you ever, apart from QAnon, have you ever, I could tell you so many beliefs I've had. One of these days I'll really sit down and write them down that I had of conspiracies I thought I had all figured out, whether it was my own or whether somebody told them to me and I believed it. I've had my collection of both. And I had to learn, and I remember mentally how difficult it was at first, when to let an idea go. I don't have the internal struggle for it anymore that I used to most. You're okay. I'm going to say you're a bit of a hoarder when it comes to old ideas that don't hold up anymore. Is the best analogy I can make. I know I was one too. It's not because I'm smarter than you. It's because I think I think there's a value or two that I hold in a higher regard than even myself. I'll get into that later, another time. Because one, I don't want this video to be too long. Two, I don't want you to take it any more, particularly personally. So you did in the past, but that's the whole point. So you had an unrealistic concept of Russia and Russians. Yeah, exactly. But, now you want to be right. Come on, brother. Be honest. You're surprised you have to say this. You thought you cleared it up a year ago. You did, but then it was like, have you ever backed off of this position once? No. That's the thing. Because it's not about Russia now. So maybe I misspoke. But at the same time, did you ever put this idea down for a minute? I don't remember you doing that. You put the idea that Russia was this or that. Sure, I'll accept that. But did you ever put the ultimate idea down that this is what America should do? I don't remember you ever doing that. Even just for a little while. Maybe you didn't tell me. But it looks like you stayed on course. You just got rid of the motivation. All right, look, I'm tired. So, no, I did not get emotional. I have never, brother, ever stopped talking to you or to my memory, anyone else because I got emotional. And I just swooned. I couldn't do it. I had to put my phone down. Couldn't send another text, not another email. No, that's never happened to me. So don't forget about Friday night, for fuck's sake. All right, speaking of which, it is now Sunday morning, and I'm tired. I feel like there's something I said in a text that I realized after I said it, I'm like, oh shit, well, that's not what he said. And I think that might have been it. I don't remember. I'm tired. I will clear this up better later. I'm going to see if I can get this up on YouTube and then send you a link to it. So, and hopefully trim this a little. I remember when you said your friends convince you otherwise. I misunderstood you in the text message I sent. You were talking about the ones that convinced you Russia was not all that it was cracked up to be, and that's what I was thinking about like an hour later. So